Well, hello there, ladies and gents. Great to see you again, and welcome back to Lessons by the Lake, the Oswego Private Wealth Show. Ryan Ruff here, your moderator. As always, I've got Bob Madritis, the managing director of Oswego Private Wealth, standing by, and he's going to be joining us from the offices over at Oswego Private Wealth here in just a moment. And we're bringing on another great guest from Bob's Professional Network here for you guys today. Really excited about the conversation today with Mr. Rick Campfield. Rick, obviously from Campfield Consulting and Coaching. We've got a nice conversation teed up for everybody today where we're going to talk about kind of the intersection between Bob's world of exit planning, wealth management, and really having business owners look deeper into what that, that fourth act, if you will, of life will be. And then, of course, the work that Rick and his team are doing with coaching, consulting, bringing these successful entrepreneurs to their highest level of potential. So really looking forward to today's discussion. Before we get Rick out here, let's go ahead and say hi to the man of the hour, that is Bob. Good to see you today. How you doing?
Hey, Ryan, I'm doing great, man. Man of the hour. I love it.
Always a good time when we get together, Bob. We've got Rick Campfield joining us, as I mentioned a moment ago. Why don't you tee our audience up a little bit? Why Rick? Why'd you want to have him on today? And what do you plan on diving into?
Well, Rick is the intersection of guys who have done it and guys who now can help others do it. So often we look at the world of coaching excellence and coaching companies out there, and they really haven't been there, done. They haven't been there, haven't done that, haven't gotten the T-shirt for their efforts. And Rick's a guy with decades of experience, both as an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur. I'll let Rick talk a little bit about that. And I love working with Rick because Rick focuses on family businesses, their health and their wealth, the health of the business, the wealth of the business, and has a very, very select group of clients that he works with. And we cross over in many of those worlds. And I just love the fact that when somebody with Rick's acumen and his deep, deep knowledge of businesses and how to run an entrepreneurial business, that then Rick's dedicated this remainder of his life, his business life anyway, into helping entrepreneurs and family businesses. And so I couldn't be more excited to have Rick on board. Rick's up in Washington here, right outside of Portland, on the other part of Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, and we're developing a wonderful relationship together and serving a lot of the same clients.
I love it. Well, with that, let's go ahead and welcome the man to the show. Rick, great to see you, and thanks for joining us on the show today.
Hey, thanks, guys. This is exciting. A little bit nervous, but exciting. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Well, if Ryan and I make you nervous, then I can't help you. We're the most unassuming guys in the world. We love to have these conversations, Rick, and you bring so much value to the table, and you've helped so many people over the years. Not only in the but why don't you walk us through your business career a little bit, if you will, and your life in general, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, sure, certainly. Well, my life began on the Yakima Indian Reservation. I was born and raised there as a farm boy. Dad had four of us boys, and we were the hired hands. And I couldn't wait to get out of the valley when I graduated from high school and got my degree at UW with a mechanical engineering degree. And that started my career into big Fortune 100 companies. First half of my career was Siemens and Johnson Controls, two large organizations. I moved up in executive positions there and moved into a leadership position and graduated out of Siemens Leadership University, which was the best education I've ever gotten. And from that point forward has been 3 to 4 year stints in executive positions. I've had a couple of CEO exits. I've had work in nonprofit, 14 different industries, from solar to renewable energy to oil and gas to healthcare. And so that diversity really positioned me for what I do today. And Bob, I love what you said. I'm a guy that has been there and done it, and now I love and passionate about helping others to do the same. My career has 38-year journey from both, as I said, profit, nonprofit to international. Did a lot of international work. And so that's what brings me to the position I'm in today, which is a passion to help out family businesses. And Bob said it. My tagline really is the focus of health and wealth. You can build wealth if you have a healthy organization and a healthy family. And so that's the intersection I play in. Some people say it's crazy and stupid because it is really difficult to deal with family relationships and getting those healthy. And they want to do Thanksgiving together and have birthday parties together, and at the same time build wealth in the business. So
Well,
quick
Rick,
back.
working with family businesses, that there is that added layer, right? There's that added dynamic of the family dynamic because you don't just end the day, clock out, go home. You don't have to see each other again. It's Friday, you leave home, and then lo and behold, you're having a picnic together on Saturday. There are a lot of dynamics there. I'm sure you've seen some incredible things over the years.
Yeah, it's that is really the difference between family business and co-founded business. But family business in particular, it's hard to fire a family member. And so they just fight through. A lot of times I find that they're just fighting through trying to figure out how to make this thing work because they don't want to upset the family relations any more than they already are. So that's the different dynamic of a family business versus non-family.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the beginning now. So I know you have the family business health and wealth framework.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about off camera. You and I have talked about the 5 C's, the different phases of what you do. Let's just kind of take us back to the beginning. I'm a family business. I have sons. I have daughters. I'm at a certain age. Maybe I'm a baby boomer. I'm making my consideration for the next phase of my life, the first phase of my retirement. I'm taking a look at the business. I'm evaluating it. I call you, Rick. What do we do? What do we do first? What do we do second? How do we engage?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Bob. Over the years, I've generated this framework that I used as an executive and just kept honing it over decades. And if you see the library behind me, it's full of business books. I thrive on reading business books, not pleasure books. That's just who I am. And so I've taken pieces of various authors from Jim Collins to Patrick Lencioni to Gino Wickman, et cetera, to build this framework over decades. And so that framework consists of 6 phases, well, five plus the six if the client wants to take me in, and they're all built around 5 C's. So let me describe C's. First and foremost, the most important of any is communication. If you don't get the communication right, then you have chance for chaos. And I can define that further after I go through the 5 C's. The second one, most important, is culture. Culture eats strategy all day long. And many of these businesses think that they have a certain kind of culture, and the reality is that they have a culture that's fighting what they want to try to achieve and get completed. Number three, clarity. Absolute clarity in roles, positions, decision making, authority levels, etc. Number four, cash. How are you driving top line growth and bottom line profitability? And then number five is counsel. What are you doing to surround yourself with experts to help you build the wealth of the business? From legal counsel, CPA, wealth managers, etc. What does that counsel look like? And then building a family council. Much like a board of directors, it's a family council that may include some of those external factors, external experts that really help to drive structure and accountability to the family.
So when you talk about communication and culture, number one and number two, right? Communication one, culture two. I almost in my mind think about them as being one and the same. Where does one stop and the other one start? So when you come into a company and you do an assessment, say you were coming into my company and doing an assessment of my family business, and you first looked at how we communicate, what our culture is, what are the things that you're looking for? What are the red flags? What are the things that you want to see? Um,
Yeah. So the 5C framework then layers over top of these phases, these 5 phases. Phase one is discovery. And what I'm doing is I'm interviewing all the key stakeholders from family members to maybe some leaders, as well as maybe people down that are boots on the ground. And what I'm doing is trying to understand and evaluate truly what is the organization really like. Not what the owners tell me, not what the family members, leaders tell me. What is it really doing and acting? And that helps me to understand how well is the communication and how well is the culture being built. So to me, they're two distinct things. The exercise I go through with communication culture is working through a code of conduct on the communication side. How do we treat one another? What does that look like? And we describe, then we define as a family team and a leadership team, what are those rules of core code of conduct or social covenant? And then if someone breaks that, what is it we do? So we deliberately define a communication protocol. Culture, the exercise I go through is asking team members, give me words that describe your current culture, and then give me words that you wished your culture was. Notoriously, there's a difference in words. There's some good words, some bad words, or not so good words. And then these are always good stuff, right? So I sit down with the leadership team and the owners and say, okay, here's these words that are current culture. Here's the words you want. What's our strategy to go from that to there? You can shape and cajole culture over time. It doesn't occur overnight. You never got there overnight. And so it takes a bit of time to reshape your culture. And what we do is develop strategies to go from this word to that word. And that is really the driver of how the business really conducts itself. And then communication is just how do you have good respect for one another, fight fair, and not be docile, but put your opinion out there and learn how to be more effective at your communication protocol. A lot of the times in these two phases, I feel like I'm more of a counselor. I wish I had a psychology degree, quite frankly, because it's a lot of coaching how to communicate effectively. And what I'll do in these meetings after we have established the ground rules for the code of conduct is grade letter A through F, just like in high school. A is a 4.0, F is you failed. And I'll ask them right then and there, okay, how did we do on our code of conduct, A to F? And we'll go through and everybody will describe what they think, and then we'll unpack why. What can we do to improve it? So to me, Bob, they're two separate things. Definitely they rely on one another to be effective.
Rick, appreciate you kind of breaking down those two. I would agree. They definitely stand aside from each other. That third C that you mentioned, which is clarity, this idea that everyone is aware of the decision makers, the chain of command, if you will. Talk me through this because I would imagine that while it seems very straightforward, that, so and so reports to so and so, and they have the decision to make this on paper, it can seem pretty straightforward, but once you're in the trenches, it can get a little muddied at times. So, talk me through this idea of clarity and why this is very much a C that stands on its own 2 feet.
Yeah. I'm going to start with really the clarity in terms of governance development, which is phase two. Uh, can you articulate a clear vision, mission, purpose, and objectives? So, vision, mission, purpose, and objectives. 90% of the time, no one can articulate across the board a consistent, salient vision, mission, and purpose. So we work together as a family on those pieces to gain clarity as to bringing everybody together on the same page with the right words for each of those categories. One of the things leaders need to do as driving a business is making sure that they state the vision and the mission of the business regularly. That's hardly ever done. There's a poster that gets created, it's put up on the wall, it's maybe on your website. That framework, that governance framework, really should be used as decision making, your lens at looking at things to determine whether you do this or not. And so part of clarity is gaining consistency and agreement to vision, mission, purpose. Then in terms of their role and responsibility, in family business in particular, it can get really dicey in the communication side because this family member may think that family member should be doing something different. And so what we do is we define the role of the individual, the responsibility they have, and then the authority that they have. And then we'll define exactly what needs to be brought to the family for vote versus what needs to be brought up for just understanding and knowledge. That those three pieces, those three exercises creates the opportunity for the family to work on their communication skills and fighting through fair and getting to the point of resolving consistent and agreed upon vision, mission, purpose, roles, responsibilities, and authorities. That is the foundation of the phases I go through in this framework to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then one of the things we talk about is what you decide here in the boardroom as a family, as leaders. When you walk out the door, if you may not have agreement 100% on everything, but the majority, and we talk about is this a majority vote or is this an all exclusive vote that you either do it based on everybody saying yes or no. But when you walk out of that room, nobody should be the wiser that there's any difference of opinion on that particular issue or that item or whatever change is necessary.
Mhm.
Because what happens is in family business, they may pee on each other's Cheerios by just saying things like, well, I'm supposed to tell you this. We're supposed to be doing this because that's what dad wants. That's not healthy. That's not good. So creating clarity with those three components and then making sure the ground rules are abided once they walk out of the room is extremely important.
Yeah, I can imagine how clarity very much kind of bleeds its way into a lot of the other C's, frankly. And that would bring me kind of the next C that I'd love you to jump into, and that is cash.
Yeah.
Obviously a foundational part of the business, managing cash flow, but it's more than that, isn't it? Talk me through cash specifically.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, just yesterday I was with a client and the one family member was hung up on relationships and building a healthy culture of caring for the employees versus profitability and growing the business. And clearly a business has to print money at some point in time. You, as a business, you have to make money somewhere. Now, you may be in debt strategically and have loans because you're building something like a SaaS model, but a business needs to eventually print cash. And so the question is how do you do that? One, you have to grow revenue. You got to create a means to have the ability to have an income. And we work on what's your current revenue streams? How do we diversify those revenue streams? Can we add some shoulder services to your current offering? If you do this one thing, is there somebody doing something right tucked up against before you do your thing or after that you could pick up as shoulder services? Is there different geographies you could go into? Is there other products and services you can add? And then I'm very keen on helping them to try to find a way to get ARR, an annual reoccurring revenue. The best example of that is the SaaS model. You pay Microsoft 365, $50 a month on a credit card, and it just happens. It just goes. Can you and your business create some sort of ARR? Once we've identified strategies for revenue growth, then we go into OpEx, below the line. Can we refine our operating expense in terms of insurance policy? Do we have the right structure? Do we have the right payroll system? Do we have the right tech stack? How does our supply chain look? How efficient are we at doing things? And I work on deliberately trying to convince and help them to identify ways to touch things once. So lean strategy is all about gaining efficiency and using this theme and idea that I'm only going to touch something once. If I touch something 2, 3, 4, 5 times, chances are I've got room for inefficiency. So how do we reduce that? So cash is trying to figure out how do you grow top line and be very deliberate and strategic about it. And then bottom line, how do you increase that net profitability?
Yeah, this is great. And then let's bring it home with that final one. I mean, when you said counsel, as you were giving us the high level on the 5 C's, my eyebrows raised because this is a conversation that Bob and I have touched on in so many different ways on this show, surrounding this concept of build the right team of professionals around you to get their guidance, to get that counsel, to make educated and tactical decisions for yourself, to prop yourself up for that life of significance that we talk about a lot. So, walk me through on a deeper level this idea of counsel. You mentioned the counsel from the business side of things, but also the idea of the family counsel. And I love, our viewers tuning in visually here on YouTube are not going to see this, but in your byline here, as you chimed in today, you've got family quarterback, or I'm sorry, what is it here?
Yeah,
Family business quarterback. I love
yeah,
that. I would imagine the counsel element plays a little bit into the family side of things here. Why don't you
yeah,
elaborate for us?
certainly. So, counsel is just as you said, phase five of this five-phase framework is ends in continuity and a lane change plan. So let me describe that and why how that applies to counsel. Eventually, I'm being brought in to figure out how to get the health of the relationships in the family back, and then the health of the business and building wealth and wealth preservation and a transition plan. So whatever generation is now leading this family business, if it's first gen, the patriarchs, eventually they need to transition the business before it's too late, before they either have a stroke or a heart attack or something happens that they are no longer able to fulfill and execute the duties that they're currently doing. And how do you transition that into the next family? And so continuity is really important. Continuity really speaks to having a family council that is comprised of obviously the founders, the patriarchs, and family members, and outside counsel. So every client I have, I've had the last 5 years or so, I've been involved on their council. I'm brought in on an annual basis and sometimes quarterly to help kind of provide third-party perspective to recalibrate. It also has to do with getting the right expertise on the bus. This one company I was talking about yesterday, that they have a specific service they provide, and I shared with them that there are others that have the experience and the expertise just like you, that you do in a different area that you need support, legal counsel, wealth management. Matter of fact, Bob, you and I get to meet a client tomorrow. Um, Having expertise that this is what they do day in, day out, provides family businesses with perspective and ideas to how do you actually execute and options that they might not realize is available. Um, all kinds of different insurance strategies you can use, asset planning, wealth management. All of those things are better served by people that do that day in, day out, that have the war wounds, the experiences, and the scar tissues to help that family business see a perspective that they're not going to get otherwise.
Yeah,
So,
Rick, I'm so happy you brought that up because I think that's what we do together, and that's what we strive to do here at Oswego Private Wealth is we strive to create that virtual family office to bring all the right people in. Because back in the day, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, they just simply hired all the lawyers, the wealth managers, the risk management people, and they just paid them big, big salaries. In today's world, you can do that, of course, but I would argue that you need at least $500 million to fully pay all the salaries of those people in their office space. But you can do that by having a team around you that communicates with one another, that cares about you, your family, your business, and they're operating in all of those areas that you just mentioned.
yeah. Here's the reality, Bob, that every business um, goes through different seasons, and they may start out small. And what I found in these family businesses, they're just working hard to build something and eventually gets to the point where it's got sustainability and it's resilient and it grows. And then other family members come in as they grow up. That counsel has to change over time. As the business grows, there's more complexity, there's more risk involved. The sophistication of the counsel needs to improve. So it may have been a lawyer down the street that helped them to get kicked off with their LLC or moved to a C corp, and their CPA that does their taxes, or their 401k provider that they had when they were working for a big company might be okay for now. But as they grow, the complexity grows proportion to the counsel. Um, and it's only smart for them. And a lot of times here's what I found. It's difficult for them to realize that they need to reach out and to trust and verify. Like Bob, what you do, many times there's a stigma that a family member might have about one of the providers, either legal counsel, CPA, or wealth advisor, or insurance broker, that they're out to sell their service. What I tell them is use them for the experience and the scar tissues that they have that you may find there's something very unique that you never knew about that could make the difference in your family wealth. So I thought I'd bring that up. It's important to recognize it gets more complex as the business grows and more sophistication is needed.
No, and I agree with you so much, Rick. And then I think one of the tells on that is, do those people come in asking good questions and trying to understand you and your business, or are they coming in with a product looking for a place to fit?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh yeah, I know. I was just going to ask a question. Bob and I, we talk a lot about the exit planning as well as succession planning processes for a lot of business owners out there, and
Yeah.
it usually tends to open up a lot of emotions as well as complexities, especially when you've got, Bob threw out the scenario earlier, several sons, several daughters. There's a level of equity that you want to have, across the board. When you're going through some of these conversations and coaching with the successful business owners you work with, Rick, how do you walk through those kind of what can be tumultuous waters,
Yeah.
of navigating that succession planning, exit planning, and making sure everybody's on the same page with the decision and no one's kind of getting left high and dry?
Let's be clear, it's always tumultuous. I've never had it where it's just smooth.
Sure.
Everybody's on the same page, they know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, I've never seen that. I'd love to have that plan A. Um, so in this part of this framework, at the beginning of engagement, I'm working with the leaders of the business, the owners, which if it's not the patriarchs, it's Gen 1 or Gen 2. And I've got this pyramid that we work on, which if you think about this pyramid at the bottom level is 100% of the ownership is with I'll call it the patriarch, Gen 1. Let's just assume the business is a Gen 1 business. The patriarchs have 100% of the business. At the top of the pyramid, the kids have 100% of the business and the parents have zero. How do you build to that? Level one, on the left-hand side of that slope is teamwork, and the right-hand side is success ingredients. How do you move from teamwork that the kids feel entitled all the way to the kids now get it, they understand it, and that the parents are now transferring that information to them that they can now take and run the business effectively as if it were their own. On the right-hand side, you've got this concept and idea of having data and moving from information to knowledge to experience and wisdom. So that's the ladder, and then we develop steps that the patriarchs need to see the kids go through in order for them to go, okay, I'm ready to relinquish 50%. I'm now ready to relinquish 80%, and now I'm out of the business. So we built what I call a lane change plan. I've found that word typically feels better than exit strategy or transition plan. It's a lane change. And so I deliberately work with the patriarchs. And then at some point, we bring in the next gen in so that they can see what's expected. There's not a timeline on this pyramid. It's up to the kids and the parents to work together to figure out how to move up that chain, that ladder to show good responsibility and good fiduciary responsibility as well. And part of that, back to phase one, phase two, the clarity and the communication culture, is they've built something better than it was before, and they're all in unison. And then it typically we get to the point where we then talk about, do you want to sell the business? Do you want it to go to the next gen? Is there any next gen available, or are they just little kids? Um, do you want to transition the business, hire or fire, or excuse me, buy another business out? Do you want to bring in a new CEO and you guys just get to be on the board and just collect your paycheck and watch somebody else build this thing? So early on, we'll go through that process. And most of the time, the patriarchs aren't sure and dialed in as to what they want to do because they want to see how this is going to go with the kids.
Rick, when you're talking, you're hitting me emotionally because I'm thinking you're asking the questions that business owners like myself and the first gen businesses ask, and you're asking them rhetorically, and you're making me think about what do I want, how do I want it to go. I'm just putting myself in the shoes of that business owner you're working with,
Yeah.
and it's because of your wisdom and your time of doing this and your business acumen that you're asking the right questions and helping them go through a process to get to the ultimate conclusion that it's not always the family transition. We generally start out saying we want it to be that, but sometimes it's not that.
Yeah.
And it's a process that owners need to go through, and second gen and third gen need to go through to determine, is that in fact best for the health of this company, best for the health of the employees, best for the health of the customers, and best for the health of the family.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And many times they get to the point where they realize, you know what? I shouldn't be the CEO. We should really bring somebody else in. You've helped me to understand and see what my gifts, my skills are. Early on, we'll do an assessment. I do a couple of them. Working Genius is one of the most important, powerful ones. To understand, how are you wired? What is your giftings and what is your passion? And majority of time, I think I can say this almost 100%. A family member in some sort of leadership position changes and moves to a different seat because of the exercise and the framework that we go through to realize, you know what, the family is best served and the business is best served with somebody else as the VP of sales and marketing, not me. And when I help them to see that if you get the right seat on the bus, the right talent on the bus, and move people off the bus or different seats as the bus grows, which is good to great, Jim Collins, then that's going to help the cash category that we talked about. And guess what? Cash goes up, you get better dividends.
Well, listen, I think we could probably make this podcast go for about 4 hours because I've got about a billion more questions for you, Rick. But we probably all good things must come to an end. So let's stop it at this. I think we're probably
Wow,
people listening to this have been are wanting more, are definitely wanting more. So how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you and connect?
Yeah, good question. Well, first of all, I'd say go to Bob and he can get to me. So don't forget Bob. That's the easy way because you're going to forget. I'm going to give you an email, which is Rick, or my website's rickcampfield.com. Just side note, early on in my consulting career, which in between executive positions, I'd coach and consult others because one, I don't do idle well at all. I'm working on it. And two, I had my wife and three daughters who never needed me to manage them. And so I would just help others in between these executive positions. And so I originally had a company, Cadence Development is my LLC. I thought that sounds good, getting everybody on the same page, good cadence. At the end of the day, a family business is hiring me, and I'm bringing out the right resource and the right counsel and skill sets that I don't have to complement to take care of that family business. So rickcampfield.com. That's simple.
Love it. Appreciate that, Rick. And Bob, obviously, Rick mentioned going through you, of course, for anybody out there that could benefit from, we talk a lot about a second opinion or a stress test on their wealth management side of things, but also just guidance as they walk through that fourth act of life and think about the exit side of things, transitioning or switching lanes, as Rick likes to say. I like that one a lot, Rick. Bob, what's the best way somebody could reach out to you and your team?
Yeah, you come to our website, OPWM, Oswego Private Wealth Management, opwm.com, Oswego Private Wealth Management.com. Come check us out and connect with us. So we'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you both carving time out of your busy schedules, and I know you got clients to serve, so we'll let you get back to doing that. But Rick, thanks again for being with us, and we'll see you again sometime soon.
Pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Of course. And hey, folks, look, we're going to take a final moment as we always do on this show and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you enjoyed today's discussion, if you learned a thing or two from Mr. Rick Campbell today, I know I did, make sure you hit that subscribe button on whichever platform you check this out on today so that you don't miss out on any future conversations where Bob and I welcome on some of just really great minds to talk through some of the intersections of wealth management and their respective expertise. Again, Rick Campfield joining us today. Really a great chat with Rick. But look, for Bob and Rick, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long now, but we appreciate everybody stopping by and being with us today on Lessons by the Lake.